Howdy, everybody. So, I was doing some research on emission standards to new trucks and warranties, and I was really surprised when I bought my 2019 how strong the warranty was. I'm like, wow, I'm impressed. So um, I was reading this article at Freightways, and I posted the link in the group section, and I'll post it again in the comment section when we're done. They're looking at future years, future emission standards. I mean, we're in the year 2023, and they're talking about emission standards for the year 2027. And part of the legislation, I think that was just passed with NOx emissions, requires manufacturers to design engines and after treatment systems that are so-called tamper-proof, and then place it under warranty. So what they want to do is they want to keep drivers from being able to fix and repair these systems on their own. You could look at that from a couple of different standpoints. I could see where a mechanically inclined driver, is not going to be too happy with that because they have the skills to do the repair. However, you have some mechanically skilled drivers who also delete their system, for example. So guys are pretty smart. They can figure stuff out. So if they can do it themselves, then they will tamper with the system. So in order to combat some of the cheating going on, the law requires the manufacturers to create tamper-proof systems. And as we saw in my one breakdown with the DEF doser meter, it required a special socket, which was like a e-Torx, which wasn't a Torx bit. It wasn't a metrics socket or anything like that, not star-shaped. It was something new. So, I mean, I had to search and find a tool, and I did, but that's the idea, is that they're going to come up with new fasteners and new mechanisms to prevent the average Joe from using his hand tools to get in there and tamper with the system. So that in the future will require more and more specialized tools if you were to attempt that type of repair. Well, since you can't do the repair yourself, they have to put it under warranty. The law requires them to put it under warranty. So there would be no incentive for you to tamper with it. So if you had an issue with your one box or your DEF system, it's under warranty. You just take it into a dealership, they get it fixed, no cost to the driver. That way the EPA is happy that the trucks on the road are being properly maintained. It's not adding additional cost to the driver because it's under warranty. However, the cost of the truck goes up. I think that's why we saw such a large increase in truck prices, not only due to inflation, but the improved warranties. My feelings on it is that I'd rather have the warranty. It's nice going into Freightliner and not having to pay anything. Now I realize I paid more for the extended warranty coverage, and I paid more for the truck price, but I know when something happens with the truck, more than likely it's covered under warranty. And so the EPA standards is for the engine and the after treatment system. So when you look at the extended warranty and all the components that are covered, I think a lot of this stuff is covered, required coverage by law. So it's quite interesting how the industry has changed. I tell you, I had the Cascadia 125 model with EPA 10, and I couldn't keep the truck on the road. No matter how hard I tried, and no matter how much I learned, it was always breaking down. So it was interesting to learn the system and interesting to build the skill set, but it was affecting my ability, my earning potential, because while you're down, you're not earning. So I'd rather have the increased uptime and run. And I think when we talk about being a driver technician, I think the game has changed because of the new legal requirements for EPA emissions, the warranties being tamper-proof. you're not going to be so inclined to be a DIY guy if you know the warranty covers it. So I think the need for a driver technician comes way down. Way down. You're going to be more of a steering wheel holder, more hands off than you are going to be a technician, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that, because my first priority is a business owner. My second priority is, being a technician. So making profit always comes first. So if I can make profit and be less of a technician, I'm perfectly okay with that. It's something in years past. I think it was always a desirable skill set for an owner-operator to be mechanically inclined. But things are changing. What was true 5 years ago is no longer true. So the guys who we always thought had the advantage were the guys who were mechanics who bought their own truck. We're always like, oh, you can work on your own truck, you're so lucky. Well, now that the rules have changed and the warranties are better, there's incentive not to work on your truck. So those guys who had all the skill set that we wish we had, they've been disrupted a little bit by the change in the industry. And I think it's great. Personally, I think it's great. I think it was the best thing that ever happened in my small business was I bought a newer truck with a better warranty. The old warranties didn't cover anything. They were a joke. And I was wondering, I'm like, wow, Freightliner really stepped up to the plate here. They really produced a truck with a great warranty. But it may not just be Freightliner. Other guys have different types of trucks, whether they're, Peterbilts or Kenworths or Internationals. They may all be required because it's an EPA requirement to have tamper-proof systems and extended warranties. So, I just wanted to pass this along that, I think these changes are great. Now, small trucking companies who are on the spot market, they may not like it because the cost of their trucks, the cost of their equipment just went way up. However, their uptime just went way up too, and their repair costs just went way down. So I think they can adjust, relatively quickly. I think the guys who are hurt the most by these types of changes are the guys with mechanical skill sets, because they have a skill that's not in high demand anymore. Because, as a business owner, let's say you were a mechanic, and as a business owner, you're looking at your truck and say, oh, I could do all this stuff myself. But then you got this warranty sitting there saying they'll do it for free. You're a mechanic. You want to do it yourself, but Freightliner could do it quicker and under warranty at no cost. So I think that's where you really got to think as yourself as a business owner first, a mechanic second. I think in years past you may have made this a 50-50 proposition where you're like, well, I need to be both. But not anymore. I think now you can focus on being a business owner. I don't know how this affects the wait time at the dealerships, with systems that are designed better under warranty. These newer trucks, they may get in and out quicker. I know with the Cascadia 125 models, for example, if you went into Dallas Freightliner, South Dallas, and you said you needed some work done on your truck, there was like a week to 10-day waiting time just to get your truck in the shop, because there's such a huge backlog. So perhaps with higher performing trucks, better designed, tighter emission standards, better warranties, maybe these trucks don't need to go into the shop so much. Maybe we can cut down on some of this wait time. I know both times my 2019 had DEF issues. The repair was very, very quick. You're talking in and out within a day or two at the most, and no cost, no charge to me as a business owner. So when I look at the cost of the repair plus the cost of downtime, in years past, that cost was huge. You could look at a $5,000 truck repair that was down for a week cost you another $5,000 and lost revenue. So in totality, the cost of the breakdown was $10,000 to your bottom line. So we think about, we generally are opposed to new rules or regulations and government overreach and stuff like this. This might be one of those rare times when it's like, this is kind of a good one, because it makes the manufacturers produce a better truck with greater warranties. Warranty required by law. I think that protects us a little bit as small business owners, because in years past with that Cascadia 125, you didn't have a lot of money to waste. And if your one box went out, guys were paying $15,000 to $20,000 for a one box. That just kills your bottom line. I mean, that may take half your profit for the year. So if it's all under warranty, I mean, it's huge. It's huge. Pressure is off your shoulders. You can breathe a little bit. And in my case, when I bought this 2019, I put down a sizable down payment. The truck was like $103,000. I think it was like 99, but then I added the tire preference, and then the extended warranty. I think it got up to 103 or 106,000. And then I put 27,000 down, and it knocked my total amount owed to 75,000 over a 3-year time period, which it's very low. My weekly payment's $589. And I don't have any downtime because the truck has low mileage. I got it at 401,000 miles. So typically I would spend $25,000 a year on maintenance. Well, maybe I can knock that down to a half or even 1/3 of the cost of the old truck. So all these things are positive. I think they're a complete game changer, an industry disruptor. It's really going to shake things up. But I think it's a good thing, not a bad thing. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the internet.